Welcome to our Croner Taxwise webinar programme. If you've got any questions at all, make sure you call the tax or the VAT advice line. If you're not a client, give us a call on the number on the screen.
Hello and welcome to this webinar for Croner Taxwise by myself, Mark Mawson, an employee of Mercia Group Limited. This little webinar that I'm presenting today is just a bit of an update on the position on making tax digital. Obviously there's been a lot of lead up to making tax digital, a lot of discussion for businesses and accountants, and then over the summer we've had two statements actually, one by the government, one by the revenue, on the future of making tax digital. The first announcement by the government really is announcing a delay in the implementation. The government had originally stated that it would start 2018 for income tax businesses, rental, property, things like that, 2019 for VAT purposes, 2020 for corporation tax. The statement now, a bit confusing in some respects, but what I think it's saying is that the government will start with the VAT element of this first. Now, of course, one of the big contentious issues in making tax digital for businesses was the quarterly submission of data. VAT obviously is a quarterly system, so not the same impact in that regard. So the government's saying actually for businesses with the VAT registration limit over the threshold, which is currently 85,000, then for VAT purposes they'll be required to keep digital records from 2019. I have taken that to mean that any business that is submitting a VAT return currently essentially will have to do that and have the underlying VAT data, so their VAT account, invoices and so on, so the primary requirements required in a digital form and supported in a digital form. It has to be said, you can read the statement in slightly different ways. I think the main thing to take away from it is clearly not a lot's going to happen before 2019 for whatever purpose. I think the other thing to bear in mind is that nothing else will then happen before 2020, as I mentioned a moment ago. The other aspect of this, interestingly, the government seemed to imply that for small businesses, it may be they're not required to do any of the making tax digital, so none of the quarterly, none of the digital record keeping at all, unless they wish to on a voluntary basis. So you would think the take up for that would be relatively small. The other thing to note is the government do say there will be a 2-year lead time when whichever of the requirements, income tax, CT, VAT, are introduced. So bearing in mind this was announced over the summer, you are really talking at the earliest possible start date of summer 2019 for VAT purposes. So at least a bit of common sense by the government and a bit of a delay in the process. The statement that was made by HMRC at a similar time really made all of those points, but then went on to say, the making tax digital via the digital tax account is still going on. And I think what you see is making tax digital is actually a banner headline, a banner term for multiple different projects. And one of the interesting things in the statement was the revenue saying that every business and every individual in the country now have a digital tax account. You would question what percentage of those individuals and businesses actually know that. For firms of accountants, one of the real difficulties is they can't actually see what is in their client's digital tax account at the moment, although the revenue have said that there will be an agent version at some stage. I think particularly the personal one begs the question why. It appears to me, and I stand to be corrected, but it appears to me that certainly from the individual's perspective, the revenue are ultimately going to force every individual in the country to check their digital tax account once a year to ensure the information is correct. The revenue currently are starting to pre-populate information. So details of salary, details of tax deducted, details of benefits in kind are already starting to appear as standard information within the digital tax account. Generally those figures are right, which makes a refreshing change. The revenue are also talking about what they call the real-time collection of tax. And this has just started, so really the revenue saying if we project you're on a current year underpayment, we will amend your tax code accordingly. We will code out on a current year basis current year interest details. Personally, I've just had an amendment to a pay-as-you-earn code with an other income figure appear. The digital tax account didn't tell me what that was. When I rang the revenue, they couldn't tell me what it was, and hence I gently suggested that actually you get rid of it again. And I think one of there are a number of different issues with this, but one is most lay people, there are lots of different things in the digital tax account. There's pension projections, there's pension contribution history for state pension purposes, working tax credit claims, child benefit claims, pay-as-you-earn code, self-assessment information. There's lots of things. It all comes from the revenue. Just because it is in there doesn't mean it's right. How many lay people would understand that the information is not right? The second thing, adjusting current pay-as-you-earn codes for current year information, A, will just lead to more incorrect pay-as-you-earn codes. But I think secondly, a bit rich by the revenue, because the tax liability for 2017-18 for income tax and CGT is not due until 31st of Jan 19. And therefore, if you say, actually, I don't want that coded out, please take it out, the revenue will do so. They have no option. So it is a bit naughty for them to be collecting tax earlier than people are obliged to pay it, because that's essentially what they're doing. So lots of different issues to keep your eyes on. Don't be fooled into thinking making tax digital has suddenly been frozen in time. The business element has been deferred, clearly. It is not 100% clear what it will ultimately look like. The personal one goes on apace. And if you haven't seen your own personal tax account, your digital tax account, please go away, register, and just have a look at precisely what HMRC are currently doing. Hope that's given you a bit of an update on the Making Tax Digital project. I look forward to seeing you again in the near future. Thank you.